All right, time for the SMX medical update. We bring in Dr. Joe McGinley, who is with us hanging out at Southwick. And then, unfortunately, we added a whole bunch of questions on injuries to the pile this week, mostly with collarbones. Joe Shimoda going down in qualifying, and that was the end of his run as the red plate holder. And then Sasha Kunin, are you kidding me? Crashes, pulls back away without goggles, wins a moto, and then instead of celebrating, tells his team, I just broke my collarbone. First of all, how is that even possible from a medical perspective that you could even ride that track for 5 minutes like he did?
I don't even know where to start on this weekend. So, yes, I was there. The weather was great. The racing was great. On Race Day Live, we actually touched on shoulders. So, very relevant topic as far as the injuries that we saw. Now, as far as riding with an injury, that's challenging. It's usually the adrenaline will get you through it. It's going to hurt, especially after you stop and get off the track. Man, you're going to feel it. But in that moment, when you have an injury or broken bone, sometimes the adrenaline alone can get you through it. And if it's not unstable, yeah, it's going to hurt, but you don't feel it as much when you're just focusing on getting to that checkered flag. So that's how, we would never advise obviously doing that, but that's how he was able to do that and get to that finish line. But these injuries, what we can get into is really the differences of the clavicle injuries and clavicle fractures that we touched on, shoulder dislocations versus separations. All of that's relevant to these injuries and discussions.
Well, the trouble for Sasha Kunin is he's leading the MX2 championship over in Europe, and they have a round immediately upcoming in the UK at a track called Fox Hills that he's expected to race at. Now, what I've been told is he had the collarbone fixed in Houston. I was told, and this is unconfirmed, but he had it plated and in hopes of participating this coming weekend. So can you talk to me about how realistic that is? Is it a situation where now that it's plated, it's stable, and it's going to be a pain management thing, or what sort of risks or possibilities are we looking at for him to be able to race just 6 days later or 7 days later?
Well, again, JT, we're going to refer back to the legend of Cody Schock on this one, right? He came back and raced after a week. Now, that shouldn't be the expectation in these type of injuries. All of these are different. So the best case scenario is a simple fracture and first-time fracture of that clavicle. That makes it at least feasible to come back within a week. It's still not recommended. It's still not going to be, the perfect scenario. But if they plate it and use sort of a thicker plate, a stronger plate, that can theoretically hold that bone in place. Now, the risk is, again, that's a lot of pounding right on that hardware. That hardware itself can fail. Either the screws can pull out, the bone can re-break, or the plate itself can bend and break. We've seen that before. So it's not without risk, but it is feasible and possible. Is there going to be pain and inflammation? Absolutely. They're going to be aggressively treating that. He won't be riding before that race, that's for sure. But there's a possibility, again, assuming it's his first time fracture and a simple fracture with plating on there, there's a possibility he can race this weekend.
Switching riders, and Deacon Deno also had a collarbone injury, but I want to focus on Joe Shimoda because it's so championship relevant. Now, the early word was that this was cracked, not necessarily like a clean break. I'm sure they know more than they did on Saturday from that, but if it's cracked, what would be the protocol for that and timeframes? Would there be a chance he could be racing at Spring Creek as well if it is just simply cracked, and what are the risks associated there too?
Again, the fracture alone is not the only problem. You have to consider the ligaments around that area. So this gets into the realm of a separation at the AC joint. If all the ligaments are intact, that's great. That's going to provide stability around that joint and around the shoulder. And as far as a crack, that's still a fracture. So that's going to be a weak point in the bone. And it could be something as simple as coming off awkwardly on a jump can complete that fracture. So that would be the risk in that scenario. If you have, what would be considered, I would assume, as a non-displaced fracture of that area, is that you can go out there on a single lap, do everything right, and still make that problem worse. Now, those typically will heal a lot more quickly if it's not a complete fracture. So there's possibility of coming out before the end of the Nationals. But, the complexity of that is just understanding if any other structures are injured, any of the supporting structures are injured, that would make this more complicated or more risky to be back on the track.
All right. Thanks for the info, Dr. Joe.
Thank you.